In for repair today at Safely Travelled, we've got this, the Axkid One 2, and it's come with a fault that I see a lot of. It's very common. It's partly caused by the design of the seat. It's partly caused by just seat use and kind of kids getting in and out of the car. But the reason I'm putting it to video today is to show you how easy this is to fix, and that actually you don't need to go through your retailer or go through a warranty repair process to deal with this issue. Just before I get onto the seat though and show you what it is I'm talking about, a quick word of advice from me, a service centre working with Axkid. This person has sent this seat in, and the issue exists down here with the ISOFIX bars. This is the ISOFIX adjuster button. That's where the problem exists. This person, however, has sent their ASIP panel, which I don't need. They've also sent it through with their infant insert, which I don't need, and they've also shipped it with the headrest quite high up, which exposes it to potentially getting damaged in transit. What I would always recommend if you're sending a seat to a repair centre, whether it be in warranty or out of warranty, is you remove everything that isn't needed within the seat that you can, inserts, impact pieces, extras, and you compress the seat down so that it's as small as possible to go in that packaging. Anyway, that a bit of advice over. Let's get straight into what I need to do to repair, and I'll show you why you can do it as a consumer, and it's super easy. So the issue with the seat here relates to these ISOFIX buttons. The ISOFIX mechanism on this seat works absolutely fine. You can, I'm replicating effectively installing the seat here on the ISOFIX bar, and it works on both sides with no issue. Sometimes I see it where these get stuck and people can't get them to engage, but these are working fine. The problem though is that on this side, this button goes up and down, and that's exactly as it should. And what that means is if you don't press the button, a child can't undo the ISOFIX bar. You need to press down on the button and then push through. On this side, however, the button is stuck down. It's sprung loaded and it should pop up, and it's got stuck down. And what that means is that when you do this, you can just undo it there. You don't need to press down because effectively the button is down permanently. It is a safety issue in that a child could undo that, or it could get knocked unintentionally. I think it's a very slim chance, but it's not right. That having been said though, this is absolutely always caused by the same problem, and that problem is that sand gets in this mechanism here. And once sand gets in there, it can't get out, and it grinds away at the mechanism inside and prevents then that button from lifting up. There is a sort of school of thought that says that could be better designed to prevent sand ingress. There is also a school of thought that is, if you were to hoover your car every couple of weeks, that isn't going to happen. But anyway, in terms of advice, what I would say is the cleaner you keep your car, the less likely this issue is to occur. The fix, however, though, is mercifully very simple, so let me show you how to do it. So in order to repair this button, effectively to free that off, we need to get underneath it and behind it, and that involves us removing this housing that is currently protecting it. In order to do that, you need a couple of tools. Firstly, I'm going to start with a 3mm an Allen key, or in my case an Allen bit, and that is just to remove this screw here. What that does, that attaches onto the rebound bar, and we need to remove that piece out of that mechanism. Just kind of push it out of the way, because then what we have is another screw back here on this side. It's 4mm on that side, and we just need to unscrew that. That is holding the housing onto the bar, and it's this housing that we need to remove to then access behind the button. So 4mm Allen key on this side. That comes out like this. Again, it's all very easy, and it's all just hand tools, nothing special. Then we need to remove this plastic housing. It is now an interference fit, but it is tight. And what I tend to do is I tend to get 2 flathead screwdrivers, nothing special about them, just standard, and just put them into the 2 holes that you've created and use those holes to lever this forward. You saw that move slightly. It then gets caught on a rivet, so I just use one of the screwdrivers to pry that open a little bit, and using a little bit of persuasion, we can get it to go over the rivet. There we go. And then once you've done that, you can slide this forward. Just bring you in a little bit. What you can see here, this is what's causing the issue with the button. There's lots of sand and grit, which is understandable. Kids love going to the beach, going to the playground. It's going to happen. Just, as I say, just be aware that this is what causes this issue. The next piece then is just to make sure that your clip is fully out like that. So make sure it's effectively like the thing is installed in the car. And then you just get your screwdriver under here and just prise up. It feels wrong, but I promise you it isn't. And what you're trying to do is take this piece here and turn it in like that. And only then are we going to be able to get underneath the button. So if you just lift it and twist, and there we go. So then once that button's there, we can then access the screw that's underneath it. So this is underneath the button, and as you can see here, there's a little Allen head, hex head screw that needs to come out. Let me do that. So this is a 2.5mm Allen head or hex head, and what pops out is a little button and a little spring. And the way this works is the bolt that we've removed, or that I've removed, let me show you. That bolt there engages in this slot, and that's what prevents the mechanism from engaging until this is pressed down. So it's really very simple. There are just three parts to this. There's this 2.5mm bolt, this button, and then this spring. And the problem is that dirt gets in between in here, and that is what's causing the issue. So that is a bit difficult for my camera to focus, but there is dirt in there in the shape of sand, and it looks like a few crumbs. It's not very much, but it's just enough to cause the problem. So what I need to do is clean that out and get it in a better place. So the way I clean this is I like to just give it a quick squirt out with some compressed air, just to get rid of all the loose stuff. And that usually gets rid of most of the sand. We've got still a little bit in there, so I've got a small brush here that I use. And again, I'm just looking to get the very last of the grit out of there. There is then one final step to do, which is that I can take this button here. It's aluminium, it's got paint on it, and every now and then sometimes there's a little bit of paint that catches. So what I always do is I just take a very gentle file and I just file off these bottom edges. This is a very small model working file, but a nail file would be absolutely fine for this job. All you're doing is just sort of taking off a little bit of the edge on the paint at the bottom. Don't do it too much, you'll take too much paint off. I don't want it really matter, to be honest, because you can't see this because it's in the mechanism. But I just like to go around and just smooth these over very briefly, just like that, just to take off any rough edges. And then it is simply a case of putting the spring back like this, and then just inserting that back in the mechanism like that. And then adding our 2.5mm hex that we have to come in from, so there it is, and we have to come in from underneath. Doesn't need to be too tight, just tight enough. And then what we have to do, kind of the reversal of how we got into this position, is just lift that over, swing it round, and then clip it in. and then just check it's working. And then we see now that the button is popping up, and so you can't push that back until you press the button and slide, which is now correct. Final step then is to reassemble the seat, so that housing needs to go back on. Again, sometimes there's always a little bit of, or sometimes there is some dirt in here, there's a little bit in here. That's why I have this quite small brush, because it fits perfectly in this space. And I just get rid of the last of the grit in there. And as before, it is then just a case of pushing it on. You shouldn't need the screwdrivers for this, but equally, it is a bit tough on the fingers. So just go a bit careful when you're doing it. So what's happening is there are rivets just at the back here that's catching on this leading edge. So you just need to, as I did before, just tease it out a bit. There we go. So it doesn't catch. There we go. Now over the rivets, let me just show you those rivets. So these are the ones on this side that we're trying to get over, and these, it's the two on the other side. So it will go, you just need to be a little bit persistent. And then it is the case of taking the 4mm bolt that goes in on this side. So if I get my 4mm head, just popping this one back in. This bolt just keeps the cover in place. It's not a key part of the mechanism. Let's do that. There we go. The screwdriver's a bit too long. There we go. And then finally, reconnecting the rebound bar using this piece here. This one is a bit fiddly. You need to line it up perfectly. Otherwise it won't quite sit, and it has to sit flush. Let me show. So that isn't good enough. That is still stuck out. It needs to be flush in. So the way to do that is just to keep finessing here. It's got a shoulder on it, the bolt, that's what we're dealing with. There we go. So it needs to go in that bit more. So if I bring you in, what you can see now is it's not quite flush, but it's much closer to in the gap than it was before. And that is our seat repaired. We'll just do that one final check again now that everything is back together. So we'll just do that, and then you can't push without pushing this button down, and then it goes in and then pops out. So that is that button repaired. This one over here, this one was all working fine as per the original. When I checked it originally, that button is popping up nicely. No problem with that one. So there we go, that's how to repair your stuck ISOFIX buttons on your Axkid One, your Axkid One 2 and your Axkid One 3. And hopefully you can see that with some very simple tools and half an hour of your time, you can pop those buttons out, give them a good clean, and they'll be back working. And you don't need to go to the trouble of sending a seat in for repair, because as with this seat, it's going to be out of that customer's car for probably a week. By the time it had got to me, by the time I've scheduled in the repair, this will go out tomorrow, but it won't be back with them for another day or two. If you've got this seat and this video has been helpful with you in solving that problem, then do please send me a comment, let me know, and I look forward to coming to you in a new video very soon. Thanks and goodbye.